Oi, my name is Toad and welcome back to Irrevocably Damaging My Credit Score. This week I'm going to be kitbashing a Chaos Apothecary. This is for a number of reasons, the first of which being they're in the lore, second of which being I came up with some pretty fun rules. But with that, let's get on with it. To begin the conversion, I started by removing the front and back of the Dark Apostle body. You don't need the front, as we'll be adding that in later with some sculpting medium. I cleaned up the parts and removed the shoulder pad that was pre-sculpted onto the back half of the body with my hobby knife and snips, very carefully, like so. This was also then moved on to removing the lower half of the legs to get rid of the kind of Dark Apostle screaming vent things. You could in theory use these in conjunction with, say, a Havoc body to create your own Dark Apostle. And then I also went in and used my hobby knife to remove the slightly churchy detail on the neck guard. You can sculpt in some extra detail like I did here, however it's not entirely necessary. To replace the parts of the legs we removed, I took the body of a Havoc Marine, preferably not the aspiring champion due to the leg position, but any others should do, and removed the lower half of the legs with my hobby knife, carefully before then using plastic cement to affix them to the stumps I'd left on the main body, like so. For the power pack, I wanted to go with something that was a bit more esoteric, and also evoked the old Heresy apothecaries, not the newer ones, although very cool, the older, smaller ones. So I took this backpack from the Plague Marines kit. It's the one that goes with the Plague Skewer. I removed the pipe coming out of the bottom as well as the spike on top. I then began the process of test fitting it to the back of the model. I removed a small amount of plastic from the back and the cape, test fitted it again and removed more material until it fitted snugly and looked as though the cape was wrapping around the back, as it were. I then glued the cape to the main body of the model. I mixed up some grilliput, which is a 50-50 mixture of green stuff and milliput, which I generally use because it has the best elements of both, though it does sometimes have trouble with adhesion, but a small amount of superglue will fix that, no problems. I used this to fill the gaps in that were left, as well as the chest cavity. I took the rest of the grilliput and flattened it out on a moist Ziploc bag in order to start work on his robes, like the Loyalist one has. I cut the shape I made into a rectangle and ripped one of the half off with my fingers in order to create, like I said, some slightly more ripped detail to match the cape. I placed this onto the model lightly before cutting the material in half around the belt line. This was so I could press it into the belt with my sculpting tools. I carved some folds into it like it was being attached onto the shoulders and some pinching motions where it came into the belt, as though the belt was keeping it in place. For the hanging part, I brought back the half that I'd cut off earlier and placed it underneath the belt. This is meant to have the ripped bit flowing backwards. I then pushed it around until it looked like, as I mentioned, it was flowing behind the legs in the same direction as the cape. I then left this to the side to dry. Once it was dry, I used plastic cement to fix the power pack on. I then removed the Terminator Apothecary back part, as this is available in the Grey Knight Terminator squad, as well as the Deathwing Command squad that is available at the time of the video production. I cut the centre off of the light and the skull thingy before then using the plastic cement to attach one part on each vent of the power pack, like so. I then moved on to the arms, all three of them. I really wanted to make him seem as though he'd have fallen off the deep end since falling to Chaos, and maybe he had some good friends in Kimura, maybe a pen pal with a homunculus. But for the right arm, I took the Chaos Sorcerer arm because I liked the skull motif. I cleaned it up and set it aside. I then took the Primaris Apothecary arm part that's holding the gene seed of another Marine, removed the hanging vial, which you could glue to the model elsewhere. I then measured that part up against the Sorcerer arm and removed the hand and part of the vambrace of said arm, and then used my knife to remove small amounts of material, but when I was happy with the fit, I used plastic cement to fix the two parts together. Once it had dried, I pinned the arm to the torso using my pin vise and a paper clip in order to have the arm at an angle. I then moved on to the left two arms. I wanted one that was holding a gun of some kind and another that had a knife. So I took one of the Plague knife arms from the Plague Marine kit, a standard Chaos Space Marine arm that is outstretched, and the Gene Seed Grabber. It's called a reductor pistol, but Gene Seed Grabber sounds funnier. From the standard Chaos Apothecary kit. I used my hobby snips to remove half of the shoulder of the Plague knife arm, like so. I then used superglue to affix the arms to the torso, as that offered a quicker drying time for connecting the parts together. I then attached a few assorted gubbins and vials, the reductor pistol from the Apothecary kit, as well as a shoulder pad from the Chaos Terminators kit, and one of the three-eyed heads from the Chaos Chosen kit, and I was left with this. I did also come up with a combination of rules that, with my friend Dave, you can use to actually run a Chaos Apothecary in your army. We wanted to go with something that was a bit more interesting and niche, that you can't really get from the rest of the army. So, hopefully the rules were okay. If you've got any ideas on how to improve them, please let me know, and I'll see about factoring them in. Now, I did lose some of the footage, hence why the video probably feels closer to a more Frankenstein-y version of my videos, so I do apologise about that. But hopefully there are some useful tips and ideas you can use in here. And to be fair, the majority of the footage I lost isn't the heavy conversion work, so you can still get a gist to create your own apothecary. But with that, praise the dark gods, I hope you have a wonderful week, and then I'll see you next time, where I'll be showing you how to make some robes for your more zealous armies. Ta-ra!